Welcome everyone. Today we're breaking down Form 1099. What is it? Who needs one? What do potential penalties look like? And how can we avoid making mistakes as it comes to our 1099s? Guys, hello. My name is Andrew D'Amico, CPA partner here at Allegedly, alongside Mike, our other partner here, also a CPA, where we're constantly talking about tax saving strategies, asset protection strategies, and generational family wealth building. And we love dropping free advice, tips here and there, both on our YouTube channel here as well as over on our Instagram. So please follow the Instagram, subscribe to this channel, leave your comments and questions, because we want to be a trusted resource for you guys in this tax space and help you optimize your personal financial picture. But enough of that, let's get straight to today's topic, 1099s. First things first, what is that form used for? So there are tons of 1099 forms out there, 1099 interest, 1099 div, NEC, MISC, there's tons. But I'm focused on the small business owner and what 1099s you're going to have to issue at the end of the year. So for the purposes of today's videos, we're talking about 1099 NEC and 1099 MISC. MISC. And these forms are used to report payments to the IRS that you've made to non-employees for non-employee compensation. And when I'm talking about non-employee, we're talking about our freelancers out there, contractors, temporary workers. Think of, if you're a business owner, you've probably had to go through this song and dance before, whether you talk to an accountant or you have payroll and you've been like ripping your hair out, like, oh my gosh, does this new person need to go on payroll? The questions you come to ask yourself are, do they look like an employee, act like an employee, smell like an employee? The answer is yes. Then, okay, we're going to put them on payroll. We're not in the 1099 realm anymore. We're talking about giving them a W-2 with benefits. We're paying payroll taxes. But on the flip side, if we're saying no to these questions, where we're considering other things like, okay, do they work a regular schedule? Is this a one-time project that this person is providing me? Am I directing them, or are they operating on their own terms? Am I providing them with supplies and materials and resources to carry out the job I'm asking of them, or are they providing all those things themselves? If the onus and the responsibility is falling on them, then they're a contractor. And yes, we are talking 1099s once again. So now that we've kind of identified the avatar of a 1099 contractor, anytime I get a contractor working for me, do I need to issue them a 1099? Nope, the IRS actually has threshold limits. As of 2025, a dollar amount is over $600. So if you're paying anyone on a contract basis, they're providing you services, an amount over $600 for the entire year, not for a month, not for a day, no, for the entire year. So the threshold's relatively low. If you're paying anyone over $600, you need to get them a 1099. I bring it back to talking about you guys, the business owners. You're typically going to be issuing either 1099 NEC, non-employee comp, or 1099 MISC for miscellaneous income. Your vendors could be individuals, businesses, landlords, LLCs. They could fall in any of these different categories and they can end up with a 1099. So it's not like just Joe Schmo off the street who you asked to do, a job for you this weekend. No, it could be actual businesses. So keep that in mind as well. But I want to kind of bring this home with, you guys have probably seen my stick figures in the background for long enough here. But let's say we're operating our own business, right? And I'm paying 3 individuals during the year. I'm individual A, B, and C. Let's say I got my LLC up here and I am dishing out money. I'm making it rain. I'm paying these guys. Who needs a 1099? Who doesn't? All right, let's start with person A. I'm paying them $2,000 every other week, and they're giving me a regular set 25 hours a week, and they're serving it as an admin function. Let's go back to our list of questions I rattled off, right? Are they working a regular schedule? 25 hours a week. Okay, yeah, I know what I'm getting every week. Are they providing their own materials to do their job, or am I? And who's the boss in this situation? Are they governing themselves, or am I? Well, if they're my admin, I'm going to be giving them the computer, the phone. When clients come calling, asking to set up meetings or asking about different jobs they can do, my admin's remitting the information and I'm telling them if I want them to book the job or not. I'm the boss. So they're very much under my control. This is not a 1099 person. Let's get this color coded here. Sorry, person A. We are going to say this is a W-2. Okay? Now on to person B. I drew this up as this is my landlord. Maybe let's take a different scenario. I operate a landscaping business. I rent like a little shop in the center of town. I'm paying them $1,000 a month. Okay, great. That's $12,000 a year. Am I giving them a 1099? You bet your top dollar I am. So this guy is going to be, let's get some green in here. This is actually going to be a 1099 MISC. right, for that miscellaneous income, right? Because they're not providing me services, they're just providing me storage. So that's that guy. And then last but not least, person C. Let's keep rolling with this landscaping example. Let's say I'm getting ready for 4th of July and everybody in town is banging my phone because they want their lawns to look nice for their big parties. And I'm short staffed. Somebody called out sick, or I'm just booking so many jobs that I'm short. So I throw out an ad in the paper, or I call around and I find somebody to give me 2 days of work. I'm like, okay, great, thank God. And I pay them $500 for 2 days. Cool. Am I going to give them a 1099? You know, this was a one-time thing, not a regular job schedule. I'm not providing them benefits or anything. You're going to say I'm going to give them a 1099, right? Well, hopefully I had you fooled with the green marker. But no, we are not. They are going to get nothing. I'll X this guy out because $500. Our limit is $600. So had that number been greater, then I would have been giving them a 1099 NEC. You know, I'll put it in red here. So that concludes our little, 1099 or not exercise. So now, how can we best prepare for this throughout the year, right? How can we track for 1099s, and what are some best practices? So I'll just say tracking up here, maybe BP, not for batting practice, but for best practices. And I think, I think I want to use a timeline here. So, and this is not going to be drawn to scale, but just bear with me. Right? This is an entire year, right? Let's call this 2025. Let's call that the current year. We're in 2025. I want to be tracking my 1099s that I'm going to have to issue. They're due over here. 1099s due. Right? I want to be prepared for January 31st. It's a quick turnaround at the end of the year, 30 days when you're probably focused on other things. So I want to be well prepared over here, and I do that throughout the year. So I'm going to be giving my potential vendors a Form W-9 before they come in and work for me. Now, when I say before is I want any potential vendors to fill out this form. Like I said, it can be individuals, businesses, LLCs, whether they're filling it out with their social security number or their business EIN. The point being, if they're going to work for me in any capacity, even if it's contractor, I want this form filed before I give them any payments. And I'm doing this with any vendor, because sometimes you don't know how much you're going to be paying them throughout the year. Maybe you start off as, like my example previously, it was $500, but maybe another weekend pops up and I need him for another $500. That pushes me over $600. If I didn't send him that W-9 beforehand, then I need to send it to him after the fact, after I've already paid him. Then there's the opportunity for some pushback and he's not going to fill it out, and we don't want to go down that route. So just get your W-9s out to vendors before you pay them. And now also going on during this year, we want to track payments. So you're a good business owner. You've separated your business and personal bank accounts. You also have a bookkeeping software. So in that bookkeeping software, you're going to add your vendor to your vendor list. And now whenever you pay them and you see that transaction in your bookkeeping software, you assign that vendor to that payment. And that's how you track it. Because now when we get to the end of the year, really this period right here, this is where I want to be reviewing my W-9s. I also want to be summarizing my payments by vendor, right? Because whatever amount I paid them through this entire year is what I'm going to be reporting on this 1099 that I issued. And by tracking it in the bookkeeping software first, I could run a report at the end of the year. It says, Joe Schmo, how much did I pay him? Oh, $2,500. Great. And then I throw it on that 1099. So that's how I kind of think about it in terms of 1099s, right? Because during the year, we're running and gunning, we're making money, we're overcoming obstacles, taking on new tasks, employing some vendors here and there. And I don't want to deal with this mess over here when I'm on a deadline, when I'm on a crunch. So take care of it throughout the year. And then the deadline piece and actually filing of the 1099 in January is a piece of cake. And note on this day, this is going to go to both the feds at the IRS and your contractor, whoever you filled out the form for. And then you probably want to keep one yourself. So that's best practices in a nutshell, and how we're not going to get in trouble with 1099s. But why do we not want to get in trouble with 1099s? You might be sitting there saying, I don't care. Why should I care? Andrew, please tell me why. Well, my friends, that's because of penalties. Yes, penalties. IRS loves penalties. And when it comes to 1099s, that's no different. So, what is there? There's late filing penalties of a Form 1099. There are, I think it's called intentional disregard. And then for that 1099 vendor, when it comes to picking up the income, unreported income. So this is really for the business owner, and this is really for my vendor, contractor, freelancer, you name it. So these are the penalties we're going to look at. But first, just a general disclaimer when it comes to penalties, when it comes to 1099s, is the IRS is looking at this on any business tax return. I don't care if it's on a Schedule C, a partnership, S Corp, C Corp, whatever. If you are reporting business income somewhere, there is a question on that form. Did you make any payments that require you to issue a 1099 this year? And with a follow-up question, were those 1099s issued and filed? So don't brush this off. Don't tell me the IRS doesn't care about $600 payments, because they do. I'm telling you, the question is on every single business tax return. And that's how they're going to hone in, circle, and review and see if you've been holding up your end of the bargain and following the rules and issuing those 1099s. Had to get that off my chest, but now back to the penalties. So late filing, if you get past that January 31st, but you file within 30 days, I think it's $60 a form. I'll fact check that in a second. $60 per form. And then if you go greater than 30 days past, so, with the January 31st deadline, now we're bleeding into plus 30 days, so we're bleeding into March, then it goes up, $100 or so. And then if you get way past August 1st, then it jumps up to $330 a form. So there's a range here, depending on how late, but it's not peanuts. And that's per form. Now, intentional disregard, this one can get dicey because the amount is the greater of $660 or 10% of whatever you're going to put on that 1099. So I'm going to say reported payment. You kind of get the gist. So $10,000, 10%, it's $1,000. So in that case, it would be, the greater of the two would be the $1,000. And again, this is per form, guys. So now you might be asking, how am I going to get hit with intentional disregard? Well, those questions I was talking about on the tax return? If you say, yes, I made payments that require me to issue a 1099, and then you say directly in the next question, no, I will not be issuing those 1099s. You might be sending the message to the IRS like, I am disregarding your rules, but you might be able to substantiate reasonable cause for not issuing the 1099s and maybe get into the late filing bucket, or maybe even potentially get some penalties abated or reduced. But in order to do so, you're going to need to come with receipts, such as like text messages with your vendors or emails that showed you made a good faith effort to get them to fill out their W-9 so you can issue the 1099. And also, a word to the wise, if you do find yourself in this situation where unfortunately you didn't ask for the W-9 beforehand and you're playing catch up, go ahead and pre-populate some W-9s, with their name. If you have their address, complete it as much as you can based on the info you have from these people that you're paying. And then if you can't finish it, you're missing their social or the business name and EIN. If the IRS were ever to come back to you, you have the W-9. You could say, hey man, hey Mr. and or Mrs. IRS agent, as you can see, I have this W-9 here, but I couldn't quite file the 1099 because my guy wouldn't answer me. I understand I should have gotten the W-9 before I paid them, but I wasn't aware. I'm a new business owner, X, Y, and Z, and you might be able to get some penalties reduced. I digest. Other penalty, unreported income. It's about 20% of any underpayment. We were talking about if you can't issue the 1099, what is that doing? Well, when you issue a 1099, it's got the social security or the business EIN of your contractor. Now that income is tied to your contractor. So now they're required to pick it up on their tax return. I don't care if it's on their business return or their individual return, but they have a tax ID number, again, social or EIN, that is requiring them to pick up the income, and it helps the IRS track. So if you're not giving your W-9s to vendors up front and getting them completed beforehand, you've already paid vendor X a few bucks already, Now you go back and ask for a W-9. Sometimes it can get dicey. They're going to be like, no, I don't want to fill out any forms. To which you're going to have to come down and say like, hey, I'm trying to abide by the laws. If you will not fill this out, I'm not paying you for anything. And you might have to get stern, but they don't want to fill it out because they know their social's going on there and they know they're going to have to pick up the income. Now, that's not saying they don't already have to pick up the income, but just the added security of having the social on the 1099 gives the IRS a way to track it. It's much harder for the IRS to track income when you do not issue a 1099. So people who are, paying cash, or these contractors who refuse to fill out a W-9, think it's a-okay to not pick up the income on their tax return because they didn't get a 1099 for it. Well, that's technically fraud, and if they were ever got found out, they would have to pay, 20% of, the underreported income, which could be significant. So call me crazy, but I think that was a pretty healthy discussion on W-9s, 1099s, best practices, what to look out for, how to do it, why we want to avoid penalties, how to avoid penalties. I'm just trying to help you business owners out there protect yourself, because at the end of the day, you're running your business and you need to do what's in the best interest of your business. If that rubs a vendor the wrong way, I'd say, good riddance. Best of luck to you, wish you the best, but I'm going to run my business the correct way under the IRS's laws. I'm going to play by the rules and I'm going to win. But we don't want to put ourselves in harm's way and be subject to penalties like this. That would be a losing formula, my friends. So guys, again, hope you found this video helpful. Please drop your comments, questions, give this channel a follow. And if you're looking for more out of your accountant, or you want a tax advisor who's going to actually be involved and help you implement strategy, reduce your taxes, build generational wealth, get over to our website, get a discovery call on the books, and let's get this thing rolling.